in this webinar. Welcome all. Once again, I extend our warm welcome to all those who are here. Hearty welcome to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keertana. Dear participants, if you have any queries, please pop up the questions in the chat box, which will be dealt in the discussion forum at the end. Happy welcome to Dr. Shan Eugene Palakal, our resource person. Now the stage is yours, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. A very pleasant evening to all the participants. With great respect, I would like to thank Sister Lucia Rose, Dr. Sister Lucia Rose, the principal of your esteemed college, Dr. Mary Hepzibah, the head and associate professor of the Department of History, and the faculty organizers of this webinar, especially Dr. Malini ma'am and Dr. Keertana for giving me the opportunity to talk on the marvels of colonial architecture in India. Hope I'm able to meet your expectations, as the theme is very vast and it cannot contain in an hour. So I shall try my best to concise my talk and limit it to some important features of colonial architecture, which should benefit you. Ma'am, with your permission, can I present my slide? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll increase my... Okay. I'll try to present my screen. Can you see the screen? Ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. The screen is visible.
Okay. Is my voice audible?
Yes. It's clear.
Okay. 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 Are you recording, or should I, because I don't have, only the host can record. I don't think I have the recording of it.
We are not recording, ma'am, right now, but it is okay.
Okay. Okay, fine. Then. Yes, so you all must be wondering why I am talking about colonial architecture. Actually, one of my favorite things to during travel is to look out for beautiful architecture and the history of the building or the monument. And I would like to brief you about when the colonial rule in India was happening. Many of the Indian cities had underwent changes. One of the changes we will cherish presently are the buildings that were built by these colonial rulers. Some of these are in use and some of them are unfortunately perishing with time. So let us take a peek through few of the buildings and their significance. Am I audible? In between, I need to ask so that...
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, fine. Okay. In case of, if I'm not, you could in between interrupt and you could just let me know.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Yeah. So I would just like to give a brief about what colonial architecture is and why do we need to learn it. As I already told you, there are many buildings that are perishing and we need to respect it, we need to preserve it, and we need to conserve it through various conservation methods, which if we join various archaeological or architectural organizations, probably we would join hands to save it. Fine. Now, what is colonial architecture? It is a type of architecture that incorporates classical architectural elements of a mother country, for example, Spain or Portugal or Holland or Britain. It's a mother country in buildings or structures in territories overseas. For example, Portugal, Spain, Holland, that is the Dutch, and the British, they had the colonies all across the eastern part of the world. So they wanted to impose their architectural styles and mixed with the local or the native architectural elements. That is why you find most of these colonial architecture in European colonies also, and in the Western part of the world. So it is basically traditional elements mixed with local culture, which leads to a hybrid kind of architecture. Okay, so now I would like to see that before the Britishers or the colonialist had come, we were delving into the decline of the Mughal architecture at that time. As all of you all know, Emperor Shah Jahan was the epitome of the golden age of Mughal architecture, and he had done many wonders in creating architectural wonders of India, especially in the north. But when it came to Emperor Aurangzeb, he had no interest in art and architecture, and he was because he was taken to drinking and intoxication and other unwanted means, which was not necessary for an emperor at that time. So the architectural marvel at that time was fading off, and it was during his rule that the Safdarjan tomb was the final, and the as you can see on the screen, it was the final Mughal architecture that led to the European form of architecture merging into India. Now, that's what I just took you back to the last phase of Mughal architecture, because during that period, many artisans became jobless because he never, during his period, not many architects or not many artisans were in construction or in constructing any particular building. So it was during his period that that monument that you see is Safdarjan stone, which is made of sandstone and marble. It is in Delhi, and it was built in the late Mughal Empire style for Nawab Safdarjung. This monument has a very big ambience, a lot of space. It has a dome. It has you can find the arched red, brown, and white colored structures. You can see here at the dome here, and you have big arches. You have minarets. So in further in my slides, you will see many of these architectural features are imbibed in the so-called Indo-Saracenic style of architecture. So now again, I would go on to the next slide. So I was trying to say is it was during this decline period that the emergence of the colonial era began, and it was the Portuguese who first landed, then the French, Dutch, and finally the British. They were the major powers that had colonized India, and their main form of architecture was the main kind of creating an architecture was the mission of conquest. They always wanted to reflect their ancestral homes. Yes. Okay, fine. So most of the architectural styles of these colonial period, that is the Portuguese, the Dutch, the and Danes also to some extent, and the British, they reflected their ancestral homes in in their colonies. That is why, and they also wanted architecture to become an emblem of power. So this is the periodization that I have categorized, and under each era, we'll see how the architecture grew. So Portuguese, as you see, you have a lot of Portuguese towns and architecture in Goa. Dutch you have in Cochin, Malabar, Coromandel Coast, Surat, a little bit in Surat, yeah, that's in Gujarat, West Bengal, and French you have a very beautiful colony, French colony, that is in Pondicherry. You just go there, you feel you're in France. And finally, coming to British, where you have all the three presidencies, and it was during in most of the places in Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras, and many other places in minor details. You have the British colonial architecture. Yeah, now going on to Portuguese colonial architecture, the main aim of their coming into India was to get into trade. They also wanted to convert people, and they also wanted to establish their foundation and fortification through settlements. So when they were trying to establish that fortification and settlements, they felt that why don't they establish churches? Why don't they construct churches, monasteries dedicated to saints? And they also had military settlements or military forts or bastions of forts that were named after them. They had shrines, cathedral like St. Paul, St. Peter and Paul, St. Francis. Like these, they had shrines named after saints, and their interiors were decorated and marked by conspicuous crosses of different Gothic, Neo-Gothic, Tuscan, Corinthian, Greeks, and Roman crosses were more imbibed and more promiscuous in their architecture, more relevant, more prominent in their architecture, especially in cathedrals and shrines. I'll show you in the slides. So, as I told you, the Portuguese were more into more going. Yes, they were more religious. So all these religious orders like Franciscans, Dominicans, Capuchins, they all gave preferences to build churches, and that is why architecture was more stylized and over decorated, because there was no other decoration, there was no other architecture other than the Mughal architecture and few Hindu temples that were existing. They felt they wanted to imbibe their form of architecture in India to make to make it feel as if they are staying over here, to make it feel as if it's their own. So
Hello, ma'am.
yes,
Hello,
yes,
ma'am. Sorry for the interruption.
no
Now
problem.
the participants are making you are asking you to make it full screen, ma'am. PPT screen.
Okay, full screen, sure.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank.
Is it okay? Can you see full screen?
Yes, ma'am. Now, no.
I don't know, when I'm trying to my screen is flickering when I'm trying to show it full screen. Either I have to
It is okay, ma'am, then. It's visible.
wait, I'll try to make it more bigger. I hope it doesn't go out of. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Visible.
Because when when I'm showing the slide bigger screen, much bigger, I can feel the whole screen is a bit shaking. Am I presenting? Is it shown? Can you see it?
No, ma'am. There are some.
The screen is not presenting.
Yes, ma'am.
I think somebody else is presenting because I have made some changes in my screen. Let me see. I'll just resume my presentation.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. Can you see?
No, ma'am.
You can't see the screen. Some Kirtika Devi is presenting, so I'm not able to. Who's Kirtika Devi?
And now it's okay, ma'am. She has stopped
Now can
presenting.
you see? Huh?
Now she stopped presenting, ma'am.
Okay, then I'll resume my presentation. That's the problem that happens because when I enlarge my screen, everything gets blocked. I don't know whether it is the connection. Is it okay? Can they see?
Ah, yes, ma'am. Now it's okay.
Okay, I hope they can see.
Mm.
I was telling is sorry, this Portuguese, they were the highlight of their architecture was ranging from churches and monuments, and also it dates back to many centuries back. You have the Say Cathedral, which in Goa, which is Asia's largest built Portuguese church in the 16th century. Okay, so going on to that, we have Portuguese church, Portuguese buildings which are having big front doors, lot of columns, lot of railings, and this is what we are watching is lot high vaulted ceilings. All this is the architectural features of Portuguese, because the exterior is more of Tuscan, that is a Greek architectural characteristic of feature. That is, you can see here, you can see this column. This column was more prevalent and predominant in Portuguese style of architecture. All these were much ancient. Corinthian was imbibed by the Dutch and the British. And this composite structure of column, these are all column structures. Like you can see here, you just have to put in each Doric will come here, composite can come here, Corinthian would come here as a column. But most of neo-colonial architecture or neo-classical architecture and British architecture had Corinthian style of columns. They had very less of attractiveness, probably that is why they didn't like it. They also had composite columns. So you can see these are the columns features, as well as the features that encompasses the topmost part above the column, on which any other dome or a entablature, you can call it. These are the basic features of a column, except that the capital changes and the shaft can change. Now you can see in the Corinthian, when it comes to British, the shaft is different. Okay, here the Doric shaft is different, and the Tuscan is just plain. Likewise, even in the Ionic, which is much ancient, or it was used in even the Dutch and the Danes used it, but to very less extent. Mostly used by the Greeks and the Romans in their countries, but not much used in India, except for a few places. So these were the features that Doric, composite, Ionic, and and the abacus on which this column on top of the column is, on which the next level of architectural feature rest is called the abacus. The architrave, which sometimes have certain features, some of them will have uh, floral tributes, floral flowers, or some sort of climbers here. The frieze will always be the same. Either it will become thin or narrow, or it will be broad, because it has to rest the rest of the structure of the monument. Dentils were also, sometimes dentils were not there in some of the architectural features. Cornice was, of course, there, because cornice was a vast stretch of structure on which a much higher structure could have been imposed. For example, a dome could be there, a chhatri could be there, or Indo-Sasanic pediment could be there, a semi-pediment could be there. We'll see pediments in the next.
We can't see the slide.
Can't see the slide. Okay. Now, because I hope I can see. Is it okay?
No, we can't see the slide.
Can you refresh? Can you see the slide now?
No, still not there. Still not there.
Others, can anybody reply? Is it not visible? Many of you all can't see.
No, we were seeing it earlier. Now we can't see. Earlier we were able
Participants,
to see.
please don't pin your screen. Just as some of them are coming, it was disturbing. So that you can see the sign. Please pin Shah Eugene presentation. Please pin that, ma'am. Participants.
Yeah, because when somebody is spinning, my slide goes away. And I can feel that flickering happening here. So,
Participants, please don't present your screen and you have to pin Shah.
But I can't see your slide.
maybe, ma'am, can you pin me so that you can see the slide? I can become small. When you pin me, unpin me, my face will go to a small place and my slide will be on the bigger screen of
Okay.
your lap, of your
Now I
mobile.
got it.
Yes, of your mobile
Okay,
or
ma'am.
the laptop. Because even I'm seeing myself in a small face, so I don't know what's happening that side. A little bit of yes. So I was telling about the Tuscan. It is this kind of architecture has this kind of feature is present in the Portuguese style of architecture, and it looks like a sun-baked characteristic. Sun-baked characteristic with stone patios, and sturdy furnishings inside. You can see here. Where did my screen go? Yeah, you have lot of furnishings inside. I couldn't get a better picture because I had to encompass all this. So and you have something called the Portuguese. You can see here the style, architectural style on Say Cathedral is Portuguese Manilin. Portuguese Manilin is a decorative, over decorative style of architecture that is complex. Too many things will be there. You have a lot of saints everywhere. You have too many decorative eaves everywhere. You have lightings which are very like you can see from here, too much dramatic use of light. Like from top you will have too many frescoes. You feel as if you are in one 3D amphitheater or something. You have too many long windows. Okay, usually they will have these kind of architecture. The style of the dome right on top of a church or a civic building would be either in these structures, and there would be light coming from all sides of directions with a lot of frescoes, paintings, large scale ceiling frescoes, and small aerated light passing through to give a very natural effect to the building. Okay, so and coming to this Corinthian style, coming to the Corinthian
I don't know what to do, which one.
hello. Yes, is my slide visible? I think some Sivalingam is presenting. Then
No,
how will
ma'am.
it be visible? Yeah, somebody else is presenting the screen. Sivalingam. Could
Thank
you
you.
please?
If everyone is pinning Shan Yujin presentation, the presentation is visible, ma'am. But everyone is continuously presenting. So it is, we can't control everything. That's the problem, ma'am.
Yeah,
Everyone is continuously presenting.
that is
I
the thing.
request
That's
all
why
I request all the participants to kindly pin Shan Yujin presentation. That
and your face will be in the side. My presentation will be right on screen. Like how I can see my face small and the screen big, you can see it. Okay, so now let me talk on to the yes. Shivalingam is presenting. I think he has to.
actually he has to stop presenting, but he is not presenting, ma'am.
Mm,
But if the participants are pinning Shan Yujin presentation, everything will be fine. Because we can clearly see your presentation and your face is also visible in the corner, ma'am.
he is the main presenter. Okay, let me see. I'll try to overtake him. Is it coming now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So I was telling about so I was telling the difference here. Tuscan, I told you. Now Doric style is categorized by just a plain base here, okay, and you have a very large column which is just running plain. Most of the places in Indo-Saracenic architecture also will have Doric style architecture, and it has a column that rests on only one particular base. Maybe there will be some. Hello. Yes. Then there is Corinthian style. Corinthian style, as I said, it has a column Doric, Tuscan, and Ionic. So most of the British structures will have Corinthian style architecture. Now coming to, as I told you, Portuguese Merlin architecture, which is in say cathedral. It is having lot of ornamentation in all the windows, in the doors, in the columns, in the side arches. All these are found in the Portuguese architecture. Now under Portuguese, you have something called the Baroque style. Okay, Baroque style is nothing but actually a mixture of Indian elements and Portuguese elements. So it's a hybrid style. So they made it Baroque. You have high altars, you have chapels, you have grand stairways. All those encircling spiral stairways, not too spiral also, but grand. It was spacious but small steps, and as I said, dramatic effect of light was used. And from top of the building, right from top of the dome, most of it would be dome shaped. So right from the cupolas, the dome shape, you can find light streaming in, or either it would be side stained glasses which through which light also was passing in through. And you also had so many angels, decorative angels, as I showed you here. You can see all this is the cupola, right? We are seeing from inside. That is why it looks like this. This is the cornice, the corner of a door. This is again a small, what do you say, a small structure inside the church through which light is let in, which is having a very, what do you say, filigree kind of an effect. And these are the frescoes. You can find all sorts of angels and various saints and everybody flying in the air, in the sky. That sort of an effect has it, because they have clouds, they have little bit of sun, dark clouds. All that is shown in these ceiling frescoes. Coming on to the next, that's what I said about these. Even most of the domes of Baroque style will have that sort of an architecture, which can be found in the Basilica of Bom Jesus in Goa. One should really visit this church, St. Francis Church, Kochi in Kerala, and Dilkush Koti. This Dilkush Koti, does anybody know about this? Have you seen this? Was a very wonderful palace, actually, Dilkush Palace, that was maintained by the Britishers, maintained by the Nawabs of Oudh in Lucknow. It was their summer palace, actually. It was not what you see now. From here, there was a big podium. There was nice big podium here, portico sort of a thing was there. Here, there was spiral staircase leading out that went back. You can see my arrow that went out back. But now in this picture, you don't have any of that, because it was during the period of the revolt of 1857 that most of the damage had already been done, and the Indian soldiers had almost destroyed most of the buildings, because they felt the Britishers were also hiding in such places. And as I said, the earlier features, Tuscan, Corinthian, and the frescoes, the great frescoes were all in these important. I've just taken few buildings. Coming on to the Portuguese houses that were found in that are still found in various parts of India. You have you have very dark colored wall painted. You have, as usual, all the doorways or pathways and to the entrance having like a fleet of stairs. Okay, so these are Portuguese Goanian houses. In Goa, you will find most of the houses, most of the bungalows are have been renovated, and only thing they have painted them and painted. Walls are the walls are painted with bright colors, and so that it gives a different feeling with the earth and the colored furniture inside, because inside the furniture would be all wooden, and to give a nice contrasting color they will always paint the walls with bright colors, and even now they have that. And also the walls which were the gate posts, the compound walls, all that had wonderful railings that were carved in cast iron. Even now many of the houses still have that, which is made out of cast iron, which is very well carved in great detail, either in floral detail or either in a smiling a flower, or either it could be a petal or a climber, like those sort of railings were there, as well as the walls, the gates. Then coming on to the next one is, I want to mention is Matancheri Palace, which is a well-known palace of the Portuguese, because it was the first palace built in Kerala by the Portuguese. It was built in 1545, and but what happened is, why it is called Dutch Palace, you know that, because it was during the Dutch period that they had done a lot of renovations. So this palace is a very ironic or a weird building, because it has Portuguese, it has Dutch, it has also little bit of European architecture, and it also has little bit of Kerala architecture. You can see here now you have the Kerala, you have little bit of the Kerala flooring. You have the European style architecture of the rooms, the arches, the proportion of chambers are huge. But only these roofings that you find here are all Kerala architecture. The the ceilings and the floorings are all traditional Kerala architecture, and it is made in the architectural style of the Nalagettu. I think you all must be knowing about the Nalagettu, which is a traditional architectural feature of Kerala, in which there'll be a courtyard right in the middle of this structure. And there's attached to this palace there is a temple which is dedicated to Payanur Bhagavati Payanur Bhagavati. So so it was the people, the natives, the European, what do you say, the mixture of these European, the natives, when they always staying together, they felt all these was needed. Next to this palace, you have a Sarpakavar. You have a, what do you say, a sacred grove. Okay, you have a church also next to this. You have also a Dutch cemetery next to this. So everything was so close, and it was so well uh, maintained by the colonial rulers at that time. But by the time the Britishers came, everything was demolishing, and the Dutch also wanted to do some of their renovations to make it feel their influence here. So you find a lot of carvings of the Dutch railings here, which were all introduced by the Dutch. And you find here also all these on the wayside, that was all put by the Dutch. Now the flooring here has a typical flooring, because it is not, it looks like black marble, not this part, this is the museum part. The black marble, which I don't have a picture of it, you're not supposed to take pictures inside. So the black marble is, it looks like a black marble, but it is actually mixture of burnt coconut shells, charcoal, lime, plant juices, and egg white. Just imagine, even now the flooring still retains. If you go there and visit, you will understand how cool the palace. It was the summer palace also of the Cochin Raja. And you have a lot of mural paintings here. These mural paintings depict a lot of scenes from the Ramayana, and also a lot of Krishna Leela paintings here are found in this particular. Um, Coming on to the Dutch colonial architecture, you find very few architecture based that were done by the Dutch, because they were only in certain places. That is, you have Surat, you have a little bit of Malabar, little bit of Kochi, and little bit in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai. You have because bastions of fort. What is a bastion? Bastion is nothing but there are fortifications to protect a town or to protect a fort. So you have the Sadras Fort, which is some 60 kilometers away from Madras or Chennai. You have Pulikat, which is also some 70 kilometers far from Chennai. You have Nagapatnam. You have this place, what is Tutukudi. All these places have little bit of Dutch architecture in because the Dutch were mainly towards the coastal areas, and they built forts at the coastal areas. And along with these forts, they also had a symmetry attached. So the Dutch colonial architecture was mainly symmetry architecture. That was a new kind of hybrid architecture that was introduced in India, symmetry architecture. And the Britishers also started following this kind of architecture. What was it? Because the Dutch had their own pointed spires, and along with the local natives, they had mixed long verandas. They had a big, large room with small additional rooms and a big porch. To They felt having a big porch was a sense of lavishness, a sense of what do you say, a lightness. Okay, so they had a large room with additional rooms and a porch on one side. They had many small windows, or it is called a double hung window, which you can see in this. This is called a double hung window and a double door. Okay, you have seen so many small windows, arched doors. This is a very old harbor hotel at Fort Kochi. It is 800 years old harbor. At that time, it was built in around 800 years old back. You can count back, and it was the first hotel in Fort Kochi at that time. Now it is a boutique hotel, and this car is always a heritage car that has been donated by the Dutch government. And you also have, you as I told you, know, you have a big large room with small rooms again, with Kerala roofing. Again, you have here large doors, double sided doors, and you have two or three windows on one side of the wall, big long arches or porticos here to lead people in and out, because they had lot of dancing, lot of merriment. So they needed large windows, and most of the architecture was all wooden architecture. And this hotel still maintains the Dutch architectural style. Same is with Abad Dutch Harbor. I mean, sorry, bungalow. This is a small bungalow in Fort Kochi, which is now homestay. And again, I told you Dutch Palace because the Dutch renovated it. So they have placed their name as Matanjeri Dutch Palace, even though the Portuguese had constructed it initially. So you have a mixture of Portuguese architecture here, because you have the small railings, the patios here, the Kerala architecture here in between, and you have the Dutch architecture inside. Coming on to the, yeah, so I told you they had long porches, they had all these cast iron, which gave a sort of decorative, because their architecture was simple, plain. Only their wooden furniture gave a look of Dutch, um, because it was mostly made of teak. So their furniture was more what do you say, ornated. And most of the Dutch houses you find, you will have all these features. Most of the Dutch civic buildings also have these features. They have a long veranda that runs through, and double doors, as I said again, and small windows as is depicted there. Then coming, as I said, next, Dutch symmetry, which they always wanted to have their expression of the Dutch architecture. They wanted the expression of a Dutch tradesman's wealth. Every tradesman had their own wealth. So most of the people who perished or died in a war, they constructed huge sort of semi mausoleums. Like you have the obelisk. This is called an obelisk here. This pointed, semi-pointed obelisk here. You may find most of the Dutch cemeteries will have an obelisk. Even the Britishers also had that. And you have this big pedestal. You have this huge, here also you have a huge pedestal. This is in Fort Kochi, which is very neglected state. Pulicat is, they are maintaining it to some extent, and also in Surat they have been maintaining. Just imagine, this looks like a small miniature palace, but actually it's a cemetery. So that cemetery was another architectural style, which with a hint of Portuguese influence also. So you have little bit of Portuguese style windows and doors there. Here, these are all these pediments. They have different these triangular shape, not a triangle. Also, you can see it is like sort of curved. So this is another kind of pediment, which I'll show you in the next slide. This was a characteristic of a neoclassical symmetry architecture. Hello, am I audible? I think again my presentation has gone. Can you see my PPT, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, see.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
somebody pinned, so I couldn't. Yeah, I hope you can see. Fine. So that was, I know I can't see my slide now. Yeah, we finished with the Dutch symmetry. Now going on to the French colonial architecture. Is mentioned from 1759 to 1954, and many you have this colonial French era, which is fully noticeable in Pondicherry. If you visit Pondicherry, you will surely get to see all these wonderful features, like semicircular arched gate, stucco design, which looks like nowadays you have this false ceiling. Same way you have this as stucco design, but it was like somebody has stuck an extra feature onto the wall. So it was all these features were an extra and a unique feature of French colonial architecture. You have large columns inside houses itself. Inside the buildings, you had these large columns which beared the whole support of the first story building. And here you can see in the next, this is a semi Tamil French architectural building, because at that time there were many Chettiars and many rich Brahmins who stayed also in Pondicherry. And the French also were so intrigued and were so excited with this Tamil architect, with the Tamil Brahmin architectural features, the Chettiar buildings, and they wanted to incorporate that style also along with their French architecture. So they did a lot of trial and error methods, and finally they used to make their houses with all these kinds of what do you say, long corridors, single storied buildings, corridors, central courtyard was there. See, you have a long corridor here. You have the usual Madras roofing. This is called the Madras roofing here, which also looks little bit like a Kerala style architecture, but it has got shelters along long eaves that are there, and you have parapets here. You have a street veranda. See here, you have a street veranda. You have a separate bench for people to come outside for visitors, like Tinnai, it is called nowadays. You have Mutram also, you have, that is the courtyard, which is open. You see in certain movies, you have in the center of your house, you have a wonderful light coming from top and open to the sky. And you have a lovely veranda with a tulsi flower in between. You can imagine all that was there in Franco Tamil houses. Okay, you had a separate puja room, which even now to some extent many of them do have that puja room. This is what I was telling. Here on top will be an open, you can see my arrow, there will be an open place, air to go or light to come in. This is the French style. You can see these columns here, French style. These railings are all French style. The doors are all that. But here you have the, what do you say, the courtyard, like the Nalaketta, which in between you have an open space where you do gardening. See here you have the woodwork. Okay, this is all French architecture. This is a down view. From down the view is taken on top, so you have all the four sides. You have rooms, you can walk around here. This is called a madras roofing, which even is found in most of the architecture uh, in native Madras, like in Tanjavur, like in little bit in Madurai, you will find. And the main building material for all this will be burnt bricks or in lime and mortar. Can you all hear me? Yes.
Yes, ma'am, it is
Yes,
audible.
ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
Coming
ma'am.
on.
We can hear you.
Yes. Coming on to finally the British colonial era. I have 20 more slides. I'll try to brush up fast. So this British colonial era was a era where it was a symbol of power, and they wanted to establish their foundation in a very strong perspective. So they felt architecture was a symbol of power. So first what they did was to establish a fort. So wherever they had established trading stations, they had established forts, Forts. So they named every fort after every saint. So there was Fort St. David, there was Fort William, there was Fort St. George, and there was Fort Gallery. So all these forts were named after after their own either saints. And most of the residential developments were bungalows, gardens, garden houses, museums. They did a lot more than the Portuguese and more than the Dutch, like educational institutions, commercial buildings, churches, museums, hospitals, and even zoos. So the British architecture was much vast than the architecture of the other colonial rulers. Now, going on to these different styles, their mainly their constructional techniques where I said cast iron, steel, metal sheets. They had superimposed what earlier architecture was already there. On top of that, they did extra modification. At times, they replaced it with their own structures. They gave a much more ornate, stylistic change, and it was all done by these architects. So we shall see how the revival style. Revival is nothing but reviving the mixture of Gothic and French, Venetian and Moorish. Moorish is Mohammedan or Muslim. Mughal and Gothic. Indo and Gothic. Indo and Gothic is Gothic, as I told you, is a Greek or Greek and Roman architecture. So both mixed with Hindu architectural styles was a kind of revival style which stayed on for centuries, and even now it is long lasting. Coming on to this, as I told you about these different Doric style of columns, Ionic columns. See the pediments, sometimes it will be circular, sometimes it will be semicircular, sometimes it will be full triangular, sometimes it will be cut in between. So these are the main three Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, which were used by the British or British colonial architectural style. This was one small, I would like to mention, colonial architecture which was introduced by the British, but he had mixed Palladian, that was another European style. I said no, they mixed or they superimposed or they tried to modify it or they inculcated this kind of style. This was another European style. It was introduced by Andrea Palladian. That is why it's called in the 17th century. Palelio, his name is Andrea Palelio. Okay, so he was the architect behind this Palladian style. You find this particular feature, very less Palladian style architecture in India, except for a few, because most of it were all in Italy, not much in India. And it was strongly based on the symmetry. Symmetry is something that you just do a cross sectional of this building. Any side you do it, one side will be always equal to the other. Now you draw a line from the north to the south. You will find this side, the sides of the tree will be equal to the sides this side. You cross sectional it vertically or horizontally. You will find this also will be equal to the proportion of the construction on this side. So that was the unique feature of this Palladian. It was symmetry. It was symmetrical. Any side you see, everything would be symmetrical. And it was a kind of a classical temple architecture of Italy. And that is the Greeks and the Romans. I told you about the pediments. It would be open, it would be broken, it would be pointed, it would be segmental or curved, broken segment. These are called scallops, which we rarely get to see in India, except for few. These are what do you say, engraved into the walls or the door openings of any particular building. These are called scallop shells. Either it could be shell shape, it could be either in a flower, a petal shape. These are scallop shells. Then coming to symmetry, I told each side will be the mirror image of the other. Then mask. Most of the Palladium style architecture, you will find all these masked features, either laughing or either monster face or either a frightful face. All that was a decorative motif, which is rarely found in most of the architectural buildings, but I'll tell you a few of them. And these are, what do you say, small shaped extra, what do you say, features that would or that were ornate and to look decorative. This is a gable. Gable is the outer lining of the front part of a building is called a gable. This triangular shape, this is called a gable. So most of the Palladium style architectures, the gables were very highly decorative because that was the only way architecture, and they could. Now you see this Rajaji house, which is in Madras. The features of a Palladium style architecture, but most of it has been deteriorated. Like for example, there were something called masks. You don't find masks here in this feature because it was very difficult for people or masonry to do that here. So masks are not there. Other than you have the pediments, you have the symmetrical structure of the building, but you don't have mask. You also don't have something called terms. Terms are nothing but individual figures or separate figures of a Roman god. Like you will find it in Victoria Memorial, that is in Calcutta. You find those structures, individual Italian gods or Roman gods there, or Queen Victoria herself there, but not in these places, which is also a style of which is also a Palladian style. Finally, coming to Indo-Saracenic revival, which is popular and well known, and the most recognized architecture in all over India, because it is Saracenic. As Saracen means, actually it comes from a Greek word which means people who lived in tent. No, sort of they were nomads, because and most of them were Arabs. And so these Greeks and they all felt these Arabs were supposed to be nomadic, and so we named them Saracen. Later, this Saracen, they felt it was very funny, and they named it. The Europeans, they gave a much better name for it, like Muslims. And so the British architects, they came to understand the architectural features of these Arabs when they visited their land for trade, and they decided to take in this architecture of the Arabs, the architecture which employed pillars. These were, and so most of the Indo-Islamic and so-called Sasanic architecture, revival architecture, was found in these places in India, found in courts, clock towers, government colleges, high school buildings, railways. All these places you will find touches of Indo-Saracenic. Especially, this is a map which has more Indo-Saracenic stylized buildings. But French and Dutch, you won't have many. But Indo-Saracenic is much more popularized and depicted in the map as is shown, because all these were, and these are the important features. They employed pillars, they had beams running through. Earlier also beams were there, but they used to make they used to support the roof with long pillars, as I said, Ionic Doric. But beams were used only during this Indo-Saracenic time. Lintels were given a much decorative style, and that is why this Saracenic and Indo, we have Indian architecture also imbibed in this Indo-Saracenic, because the Britishers felt they need to get they need to do something different. That is why they imposed their European style. They imposed styles of Arabs or the Turkish, and they all, that is the, you have the British here, you have the Islamic here, you have again the British spires here, minarets again the Islamic, Jali the in many old colleges like the Muir College, Presidency College in Madras, and the Muir College in Ajmer, in many old colleges like the Muir College, Presidency College in Madras, and the Muir College in Ajmer. The college which is in the very famous college is in Mumbai. All these four are from the from the prevailing Rajasthani architecture. So you can find a mixture of all these architecture in Indo-Saracenic style, which was brought in and incorporated, and there were a lot of craftsmen and masonry work which was going on during this British period, because they had called people from Rajasthan, they had called people who from the Islam, people who knew the masonry, the artisans who knew the Islamic architecture, to construct their own dome also here. This is the typical Rajasthan architecture, and this is the typical uh, what do you say, Islamic, Indo-Islamic architecture. And mixing both these, you get to form an architecture which is like this. I hope you get to see this. This is the Senate House, which has all the features of even Tirumala Nayak Palace is built in the Indo-Saracenic style, which is octagon shape, constructed of bricks, mortar, and has giant, tall, round pillars. Okay, and so even many buildings inside forts and George, the Britishers have redesigned. You have town halls, railway stations, all designed in this. Even the Nawabs at that time, who were also in Madras, they were also very enthusiastic in helping the Britishers to inculcate their form of architecture too. And these were the main architects of Indo-Saracenic architecture. This is the picture of Robert Fellows Kishon. There are many other photos which I didn't mention because there's so many who we need to, these famous architects who we need to remember. Yes, and this University of Madras, this it was constructed. Hello, I hope you can see my screen, or my screen is gone. It's there, fine. I hope you can
No,
see
ma'am,
my
we are
screen.
able to see. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
coming to an end to it. I hope I've not taken a long time. This is the University of Madras, or the so-called Senate House. At least once in a lifetime, all of you all should make a visit to Madras, and you will find. Hello. You can find all these type of architectures which I mentioned here. You'll find it in Madras and Pondicherry. So this building was constructed by Robert Kishom in 1874, and it was inspired, as I said, by Turkish Byzantine and built in an Indo-Saracenic style, which is a typical style of architecture. This is now closed. It is usually made for done for open for government or some convocation.
Ma'am, ma'am, sound.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. Ma'am, your mic is off. The mic is muted, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't know who muted my mic. I didn't do it. My mic is
Now
muted.
you
My
can.
screen is also.
No,
Yeah.
ma'am. Now
Can you
you are
see my?
able to see. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
You can
Yes.
proceed, ma'am.
I'm coming to the fag end of the thing. So as I said, you have stone columns here. You have Hindu iconography. You have the turrets. Turrets are these small. You have these small like minarets like sort. Those are called turrets. Every window, but most of the window panes are broken. Only few of them are still there, which are called stained window panes. You have few more architectural styles, like in New Delhi, you have the Parliament House, you have the India Gate, you have the Rashtrapati Bhavan, you have the Secretariat, and you have the Supreme Court of India, which have certain features of Indo-Saracenic architecture. This is the Secretariat building in Delhi, which you can see again a reddish uh, color architecture are all Indo-Saracenic architecture, which has these domes, chajas, chatris. Here you have this called something called, this is a dome, but this is a chatri or a chaja. Okay, both are different in minute details. Okay, a chhatri will look like an umbrella. You can see in the next slide. See here, it's like an umbrella. You can it's just hollow underneath. Somebody can just go stand underneath. And these are small chajas, which are like some sort of a small balcony which is protruded out. So most of the buildings in Delhi and some of the buildings even in in Chennai will have these features, and long colonnaded columns are there, which is again the British feature. Again, you will find all that in these places. This is the Chhatrapati Shivaji terminus, which is the famous VT Hall, it is called. This is the Municipal Corporation building. This is the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel, which was bomb blasted. And this is the Gateway of India. So as I said, you have all the features of the architectural style in Mumbai, but Madras has got more of the architectural features of Indo-Saracenic than elsewhere in India. You have little bit of Gothic architecture now. As I told you, no, there was little bit of a mixture of European style architecture. So you have Gothic architecture also mixed with Indian architecture style. Like it was mainly used for cathedrals. You have this is a Rajabai clock tower. It was renamed. The original name was not known, but it is all coming under the Victorian Gothic and Art Deco ensemble. Now you know Victorian Art Deco ensemble is a UNESCO heritage site. It has number of Art Deco sites in Mumbai, and Mumbai is the second largest in Asia that has the most number of Art Deco architecture in India. Art Deco is nothing but artistic decorative. It is a French term of artistic decorative. So that is why in short form in English we call it as Art Deco. You find here, see, we have something jutting out. These are called buttresses, flying buttresses. You can find my arrow here. These are flying buttresses which are there in most of the Gothic architecture. This also you find here. This is Mumbai VT. Here you have near the windows. You have these ribbed vault. Okay, these are called like vault shaped, and you have pointed arches. All pointed. Everything points out, and see the long windows that are all curved and pointed. And as I said, the ribbed vault. Here also you find one, mostly used in castles and cathedrals, found in mostly in Mumbai. As I said, Gothic architecture, not much. And Mumbai and Calcutta, you find these. Now, if you look at this old picture of this Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj terminus, which is VT Mumbai, you can find here below this clock tower, you have a lady sitting here, Queen Victoria. But afterwards, in the present now, if you go to Mumbai, you will find her statue missing from here, because it was after the British went out, many of the statues that represented British or any sort of representation of the British were all either thrown away or demolished or damaged or either kept hidden somewhere else. So this was one of that. And I just wanted to show you here also you have so many buttresses, you have all these turrets and pointed vaults, too many jali type of windows. All these are little bit of Gothic and Indo-Saracenic mixed up. Coming on to this is also, as you know, Victoria Memorial House on Kolkata, same Indo-Saracenic, but here you have some separate. These are called terms. You find a small statue here. You find many statues separately, all individually in different places like these. Italian statues. You have Queen Victoria statue. You have an angel over the dome. You have these window details. All these have been retained. You even have you can see here. Could you please hold on? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me or see me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yes, I suddenly felt I think I was losing connection. Fine. Okay, so these statues are still maintained and retained in Victoria Memorial House, which is the main feature. You have, as I said, like the Indo-Saracenic. Only thing, this is white in color. It could be whitish in color. It could be sandstone color or a brick color. But the features are the same. Colonnade, miniature dome, chhatris are there. See, here you have chhatris and chhajjas here. Marble has been used mostly interior. Arches, scalloped arches. These are scalloped arches. Inside you have, as I told you earlier, a scallop shell. Same way here you have scalloped arches, which are all looks like it's a 3D carved shaped arches, pointed and cusped arches. Okay, and you have overhanging eaves. Overhanging eaves are nothing but these. It's not shown in this, I think. Maybe I should show in another slide. I'll show you in the next slide. This is another Indo-Saracenic architecture, which is in Trivandrum, Napier's Museum, it is called, that was constructed during Lord Napier. This is a very unique ornamentation of Indo-Saracenic style because it had again Gothic roof. See here, we have Gothic roofs, but a little bit of traditional Kerala architecture. Long corridors you have. Okay, again you have a little bit of a symmetry shape. Have I lost? Okay, fine. Am I there or am I still presenting? Yes.
Proceed, ma'am.
Yes. And there are many gables. Gables are nothing but these ornamented ceiling panels. You have these ornamented ceiling panels here. Okay, that is called as, in the next slide you can see. Yeah. Ceiling panels you have. See here, these are all gables. Can you see in this slide? The windows are ornamental here. These are made of bricks which are colored. You have again a triangle shaped pediment here. These are gables, which are a little bit of traditional architecture also. This is called a oriel, which is a very carved structure of a horse, or it could be a tiger, or it could be a bouncing horse. So these are called as corbels. Can you see my screen? Yeah. And these also, these are few of the examples. Ambavilla Palace, that is called the Mysore Palace, which also has the same. Then you have the Vagaji Palace, which is in Mumbai. These are the few of the important architectural Indo-Saracenic type of architecture. Neoclassical architecture, which I've already mentioned, it comes under Palladian style. It also comes under the architecture that was introduced by the British, because they felt that it was a kind of architecture that could be revived. Okay, that is why it's called classical revival architecture or new architecture, because the same, as I said, no, all these were always there except for arches, roof, to be horizontal, to be Roman style, but the same architectural feature based on ancient Greece and Roman. Only thing, in one it would be a Corinthian column, maybe in the other it would be a Doric column or an Ionic column. So only those were some of the features that were removed or put in, added or taken off. These were some of the structures. This is one famous, I think you must have seen. This is Faluknama Palace, which was, the main architect was William Marriott. And you have this, again, you see this neoclassical style architecture. You have all staircases leading on to the posh Italian marble, completely with Italian marble and stained window glasses inside. The palace is shaped like a scorpion. Actually, when you see from an overview, from top bird's eye view, you can see as if it's in a shape of a scorpion with two stings spreading out. You have more. You have towards your left and towards your right, more spreading out. Okay, and this is only the main part of the building, the front part of the building, which has Italian architecture. That's what you have. Little bit of marble. You have little bit of Tuscan and Gothic. And this is made on the replica of the Windsor Castle, which is back in London. This is one of another church, which is called St. Andrew's Kirk Church. Very famous church in very old church also. And it was modeled on St. Martin in the Fields Church. The church itself is very unique because it is one of the oldest churches in Madras and was called the Queen of Scottish Churches in the East. Again, neoclassical style architecture. You see the columns inside the church are so huge. It looks like, but in outside you see how it is, but inside you have a dome like structure. So you have different mixture of structures inside. So it's an architectural marvel because the dome is made of brick. It is supported by an annular arc filled by clay like cones. Clay is stuffed into it, but it's all maintained. And only thing, this blue color is actually crushed sea shells and lapis lazuli. That is a very semi precious stone, you must have heard. So they say it is made of crushed seashells mixed with lapis lazuli. And you have stained glass windows here, which I don't think I have a picture. Which colors are there? I don't have. Yeah, these are. Yeah, you have these wonderful. These are all the backyard. These are all the interiors. Full woodwork. Full woodwork inside the church. This is another civic building in Bangalore called the Putana Chetty Town Hall, which was constructed in 1935. This also has got an neoclassical style architecture. And coming on to this, it was built for community purpose only. Okay, all these. This is also another neoclassical style architecture. This is called the Raj Bhavan, which is made in Calcutta. These are the interiors of the Raj Bhavan: marble floors, stylish decorative ceilings, which are all painted. Again, the Tuscan columns, lot of rooms. This is also another Metcalf Hall, which is now looking like this. This was the old picture. This is the new. This is a neoclassical style architecture. Again, you had the Tuscan columns and a plain building right on top, plain roof. Nothing much to decorate it about. This is St. Paul's Cathedral. As I said, it has all the Gothic revival features. See, you have the pinnacle, you have the tower, rose window. I'll show a rose window. It will be rose in color. It will be, yeah, here you have a window, but because the light is coming in, it doesn't look pink. Otherwise, in the little bit dark, when it gets dark, you can see the light. It will be pinkish in color. Then the tracery. This is called a tracery. It traces every window. You see here, every window it traces. That's called a tracery. If you find that feature, it is in any place. It's called a tracery. You have pointed arches and vault. This is a barrel vault. Okay, stained glass, as I mentioned. And finally, the Art Deco style, which is an eclectic style of architecture. As I said, it. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Please continue.
We can hear you, ma'am.
I think somebody has muted again. Okay, finally, this art, coming to the Art Deco. I hope I'm not muted again. It's the short form for
Ma'am, no.
it was.
No, ma'am.
Yes, I just said that it was in the 1940s that it came to India. And it was only in these buildings that you find, you have weird porches, cantilevered porches. Are you able to see my slide? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was their house, the Victoria House at Kolkata, and the Art Deco ensemble at what is this place called? Mumbai. So at these places and the other places that I mentioned here, Victoria House, Reed House, Metro Cinema Hall, at these places you find the architecture is more in its initial stages with lavish ornamentation, had Chinese, Egyptian, and Indian motifs. You find here, see, it looks like a Burmese cap. Okay, you have Chinese, you have these sort of roof, which it looks like as if there's a balcony, but there is no balcony. It's just like a window here, and printed or carved out extra what do you say, veranda. Okay, and then you have like these sort of arched, sheltered, okay, parapets. These are all main features of curved frontages. These are all curved frontages, you can also say that. It all looks curved, it all looks like Burmese, Chinese architecture, or just plain styled architecture, like that is called the art deco. It is a very simple style that was built only for residences, for civic purposes, and for office purposes only. So coming to an end, I hope I towards the end I had to brush through all the important sites towards the end, because I think you could go later and see how architectural features could help us create an interest in learning about an ancient archaeological and